I don't know, I never thought that I would be somebody that would have tattoos, you know? I was very close with my grandfather growing up. He lived next door to me my entire childhood. So did my grandmother, but she died when I was in 8th grade. And so I used to go see my grandpa like every single day after school, all of high school, and whenever I was home during college. And so I kind of didn't think anything of it, but that phone call sticks out in my mind on that day when I was about to get this tattoo, because like 2 days later he died. He just was like in perfect health and everything. Besides the emphysema, he was like in perfect health, and then he like had like a brain aneurysm or something, or a tiny little tumor in his brain, and it just like killed him in 2 days, which is actually kind of a blessing. It was good, but he was old and lonely, so you know. Yeah. But we talked about this in that movie we made. But anyway, so then I sat down and I got this tattoo. And I loved it, you know, it was great. And I still love it. It was my first one, and I, you know, got it, and I was sitting holding hands with my sister when I got it, and that was, you know, amazing. And is a good memory for me to have, because now she's gone too. The really weird thing was, like 2 days later, I was at work. I was working at Urban Outfitters next to the UC Berkeley campus. It was very weird. But anyway, my sister called me when I was at work, and she's like, "Oh, you know, when you get off of work, come over." I was like, "Okay." So I came over, and I opened the door, and she was like immediately crying, and she was like, "Oh, Grandpa's dead," and blah blah blah, and all of this, and we were crying, and we sat on her couch, and we were just like holding hands, and we were very sad, and it was very emotional. You know, we were sharing memories of our grandfather and all of this. Both of us had been very close to him, and the thing that really struck me that day, and kind of, I mean, obviously I remember this week well, but like, the thing that really struck me that day is that I was sitting on the couch with my sister grieving, but the thing that it was almost as if I was not grieving for my grandfather, because I kind of expected him to die, but I was more grieving because the person who I knew I was going to be grieving for in a couple of months was the one who was sitting next to me, grieving with me today. So that was weird. And so this tattoo kind of always reminds me of that time. It was all kind of crunched in there. And since then, tattoos to me have kind of always had something to do with like a rite of passage or something. And it's like a very personal rite of passage. I mean, nobody's been dictating to me like, well, you're 14 now, you're a man, go out and kill a boar and get a tattoo. You know, like, it's more like when I reach certain points in my life, I feel this need to like mark down certain emotions or philosophies that I have, and I always kind of distort them a little bit so that you wouldn't just look at the tattoo on my body and immediately know like, oh, yeah, that means that, you know, that's obvious. It's like, oh, it's a cross, you know, I get it. It's more like, what the heck is that giraffe for? I'm like, oh, that giraffe is about existentialism. It's like what? I'm like, yeah, it's a whole story. You know, so I kind of like that. It's like my own little secrets. Yeah. Yeah, so that's why.